I think about the time I was asked by, this was during my Salesforce experience, and I was moving new into that SVP leadership role. And I was sitting down with the CFO at the time, Mark Hawkins. He was talking about the things that he wanted me to be responsible for. And I had the assumption at the time, I was like, well, I'll just take my predecessor's responsibility to move forward. And he's like, no, I want to add some additional things to it. And so I was like, okay, great. But what are those things? And so one of the things he asked me to do was first for finance, but really for finance and be an example for all of Salesforce, was to figure out a plan and execute a plan for instilling a culture of continuous improvement mindset at Salesforce within our, like I said, first our global finance org. And I found that a little daunting when he told me that topic of responsibility for a couple things. One, the company culture at the time was very hero-based, very immediate, results-centric. So I knew something like a continuous improvement program, very important, great examples across industries of material impact that's made. I knew that was going to be a tall order in the reality of Salesforce in the current state. The other challenge was, I personally had no meaningful prior experience with continuous improvement initiatives. I knew of it. I knew, of Six Sigma and, the stories of great companies in the past leveraging things like that. I'd never worked in that. I, had worked in the technology industry, software industry, and that's, not something you get to until much later in your life cycle. So I, did not have any exposure to it. So I said, okay, I'll take on the challenge. So I like the challenge, and went about trying to figure out a plan of what I was going to do because I didn't know where to start. The first thing I did was, though, the great thing about Salesforce is it's a great network of other companies and other executives. And I said, okay, I'm going to leverage that network and I'm going to learn from the best. And so I was able to connect with my counterparts, my finance counterparts at Dell. And they just have a tremendous track record of continuous improvement, driving efficiency and scale in their business over their great history. So I was able to go and understand, okay, what does this look like, right? What is, not end state, but what does, best in class look like? And how do I think about bridging that between where we were as a business at the time? And from there, the next thing, once I learned those basic things, the thing I had to do, I knew I had to do, was to make it Salesforce friendly, because we didn't have anything like it in the company. Anything that was branded that said something like Six Sigma would just not be accepted by employees. We just thought of the company and kind of how we operated very different than other non-technology, non-software companies. So I then went about translating it and making it digestible for our employees in the vernacular of Salesforce. And then the last thing I did was just knowing kind of the current environment that I was describing before. I said, okay, we've got to make this a bottoms up rather than a top down initiative. Anything top down, it's going to not be a priority, or it's just going to be rejected for all the reasons. And so by doing bottoms up, and really that means training and enabling the rank and file across the finance organization initially. I knew that once they had the tools to do it, they knew where the issues were, and they knew generally how to fix it. They just they didn't have great processes or tools to go about doing, especially cross-functional things. And so we had to give them the right tools and the empowerment to do it. So I enjoyed it despite the initial concern and challenge, because personally my leadership style is very much servant leadership. I believe my purpose as an executive is to make our customers, our employees, ultimately the company successful. And so this was an opportunity to invest my time, my leadership in partnership with others to really go serve all of them. And we drove great results initially within finance, but then across the company. And it was really something that from a learning and enablement perspective, we rolled out across the company. And we showcased it at Dreamforce as far as the art of the possible and some real life use cases. And it's something that had a lasting effect to it. Something that employees can carry on from there. So very different outside of your probably traditional finance, your traditional CFO type of responsibilities, but I give all the credit to Mark Hawkins at the time for saying this is missing in the company. He had previously worked at Dell, he had worked at Agilent, HP, so he knew what that looked like, and he wanted to use finance to showcase it. And I had the opportunity to help drive that along with others.
CFO Thought Leader is made possible by Planful.